Hey everyone, welcome to the 7th episode of Double Feature Horror Show. Hopefully sounding just a tiny bit smoother, calm, relaxing, inviting. Just that sort of soupçon of Blue Yeti. I've got a new microphone that's hopefully helping things sound nice, but I am of course still without a CPU. Such is life. However, I have an update on the CPU front, the thing you were all waiting for, of course. I have got a refund. I'm not getting a replacement, but there is a refund, so we should be getting a brand new CPU and getting more edited videos shortly. That is a somewhat delayed update that I felt I owed you all, because I've got such a backlog of videos ready to edit. But to be honest, I'm really enjoying doing these streams, so I might keep these streams up on a Tuesday and put the edited ones out on another day. We'll see how that goes, but that is a matter for another time. For tonight, we are covering, I can't even apply an adjective to it at the moment. We are covering American Mary, which has many things to say about it. And something that I think needs to be said, first of all, is it's not even American. It's Canadian. It's full of leaves.
Yeah, I didn't even notice. I was very disconnected from that film. That is all I can say at the moment.
Yeah, we've got a lot. There'll be a lot to say. There will be a heck of a lot to say, and hopefully this time we will not be interrupted by any chickens that refuse to be put to bed.
That's because I ate them.
Why I order. Anyway, you're hearing the dulcet tones of one of the regular guests, my boy Haryan.
Hello, what up? Hello, sir.
We're watching too much
my drillers. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. How's it going this week, Haryan?
Not too bad. Had to watch American Mary this week. Terrible. But I need to go on to Friday the 13th. You keep telling me I need to watch all of them. And there are 13, so hopefully that'll...
No. Scandal. There are 12. There are 12.
Right.
The next one is 13. Like, come on.
Right.
It's worth it just to have the 13th one.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'll watch him. As long as... any of them as bad as American Mary?
There's a world of difference, I would say. That is a matter for the second half of our stream. Of course, our first half, where we have a discussion, is going to be covering That Crime Guy's top 5 horrors. Hello, TCG.
What up, my shillers? How are we doing?
Good, excited, high energy. I've seen your list. I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued.
Okay.
I think there's some high caliber stuff in there.
Yeah, it's a bit mainstream, I must say.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with mainstream. Like, mainstream is relative, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
And I'm just going to ask the chat, did you manage your horror homework this week? Did you see American Mary? And if you saw it, did you make it all the way through?
And if you didn't, please don't watch it.
It's gonna.
Is that the discussion over now?
Basically.
There is so much to say. There is so much to say.
It's what some people say. It's what some sections of the internet say. There's a lot to unpack.
I would think of it like you don't get much talk when a bridge works. You get a lot of reports written when the bridge collapses. This is a chance to learn. But before we get into that, I think hopefully we can go through your list. I'm always doing this stalling thing because I'm crap at turning over the images that I prepare for this, and I can't find the darn thing. I have now found the darn thing. That Crime Guy, who I still want to call Teabag all the time.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I'll never get away from that. To be fair.
Take us through, man.
Given that my avatar is a literal teabag, I'm happy with being dead named. That's all good. So
So, how hard was it to compile a top 5?
To be fair, I sort of come up with it relatively quickly, but I don't know if we're going through them as well. But there were like a few honourable mentions. It was difficult to put them. It was more difficult to put them in sort of order. Perhaps with the, obviously with the top one, unquestionably for me being the easiest one. But yeah, I just sort of scoured my brain for a moment and thought, which horror films do I remember that I really liked, and which for me have replayability, because I mean, films like American Mary, let's just say that's definitely a one and done for me. But the top 5 that I've got, I could happily watch again and again.
I can agree. I think you're coming in with a very strong number 5. I'm gonna switch and reveal, and hope I didn't get the order wrong.
No, Scream. Yep, it's the first Scream. And I promise this isn't just to keep up the meme of this channel. So this came out in '96, I believe. So I would have been about 9 or 10 years old at the time. So I was a bit sort of sheltered by bless her, me mum. So this is one of the sort of first sort of real horror movies that I got to watch with friends, and the opening scene with Drew Barrymore was an absolute standout for me. Obviously, Drew Barrymore being quite a big name at the time, the fact that she got offed in the early scenes sort of set the tone for me. I was a bit like, okay, so this is one where big names aren't safe. But it had the whole sort of whodunit kind of theme going with it, which was, quite interesting, because obviously you want to find out who the culprit or culprits were. Obviously the self-awareness that we sort of talked about in previous streams that this film had, even as a young kid, you picked that up, because obviously the films were very self-aware. You had all your rules, the I'll be right back being one of the sort of ones that stuck out for me as a kid. And, even to this day, I'll be right back. I still do that every now and then. So yeah, this was just a good, memorable film with me, for me. And obviously with Scream 2021 or 2022, Scream 5 even coming out, well, whenever it's coming out, I'm happy to go back and go through the first 4 now, in preparation for when that one comes out.
Yeah, I'm inclined to, because I wasn't super happy with Scream 4, and I encountered some people who are super enthusiastic about it, and it's actually kind of made me think, okay, I maybe owe this a second watch. But I think that's an absolutely solid choice. It's funny, but it also brings the scares. And even if Haryan, you're not a horror obsessive, but no, Scream worked for you.
Scream was good, yeah. Scream was great, yeah. It's one of the only horror films I've seen. On one of the better ones. Yeah, I know the bit of murder mystery as well, I suppose, especially for the first time watch through, because I didn't know there were 2. Are we spoiling it?
I think it's a bit late for that now.
It was the first episode, actually, yeah. But yeah, I didn't know there were 2 murderers when I first watched it, and that was like, oh, that's a twist. And then it had a very 90s feel to it as well, which was very, very nostalgic for those that are older than me, but still nostalgic for me, because I kind of grew up with a lot of 90s stuff with my older brother and sister. So
I also have to say as well, the scene in the garage with, I think her name was Tatum.
Yeah, Rose McGowan.
Yeah, that
impressionable.
Again, being a young lad at the time, and seeing the kind of the style of her death, really sort of like made me weary to go near automatic garages for a long time.
It's such a memorable scene. Like she's so close, and it's just like the gods of horror do not permit it. What I love so much about that reveal about the killers is it's kind of like a fun meta commentary as well, like, because you have been trained, if you've been watching these films, that the killer just turns up anywhere. Especially by the time we get to Jason Takes Manhattan, that dude just teleports, and there's no getting around it. They don't give a damn. Jason just appears wherever he needs to be. So when you see Ghostface just appear here, there, and everywhere, your brain is just like, yes, this is fine. This is normal. No problem here. Yeah. And it's the film then brings you back with questioning and says, actually, no, think about it. Think how would this happen?
Well, I mean, there was a whole, exactly. It explains that. Wasn't there talk as well of their root? Well, obviously unconfirmed rumors that there were actually 3 killers, but only Billy and Jace. Billy Loomis and Stu? That's it, Stu. Revealed themselves because the whole teleporting debate. There's one scene right towards the end, isn't there, where Ghostface effectively teleports. And I remember for a while afterward, they were like, but was there a 3rd killer? And
there was much debate, and it's a scene after Billy fakes his death. Because it's the 2 of them in the room, and Sydney runs out, and there was a lot of obsessive attempt to categorize the layout of the house and work out whether either of them could have got round to the other side of the house in time. And that fueled a heck of a lot of rumors.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And also Scream as well, birthed for me probably one of the best spoof characters in Officer Doofy. So, if it wasn't for Scream, we wouldn't have Officer Doofy reporting for duty. Gareth Wallov.
Don't make me laugh on stream, darn it. I was going to do a little thing with the from the call at the start, where you have Ghostface ring her up, and she says, "What do you want?" And he says, "I want to see what your insides look like."
Oh yeah.
And I was going to be like, "Dude, I'm not starting an OnlyFans." And then I realised, Scary Movie already did the darn joke.
Yep.
I was like, darn it. And also, I'm a family-friendly stream, and I wouldn't make that sort of comment.
No.
There are horrible rumours of filth slipped into my videos surreptitiously, and it's very irresponsible, frankly.
And also, admit it, you did the impression of Ghostface as well on the phone. What's your favourite scary movie?
Okay, yeah, I'm recruiting you to do more voiceovers. I'm seeing some really interesting suggestions here, actually.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? It's a bit of a sin, but I have seen Candyman, but I'd have to go back and watch it again. It was one of these films that I've seen ages ago, and there's only a few sort of key moments I sort of can vaguely picture. But I think eventually when we get to deep dive in that one, I'll be more enthusiastic about watching that than, I don't know, American Mary maybe.
I feel like I owe you a fun one after this.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
We'll have some fun. We'll have some fun. Let's go to your next choice, if that's okay.
Let's.
Oof. I was impressed.
Ring. Yes, The Ring, the 2002. Obviously, this was a remake from like a US remake of the original Japanese one, which equally can be on that list accompanying number 4. But the concept of the VHS, the 7 days theme, was, I love it. And the effect that Samara, I think her name was, who the manner in which she left her victims as well. Again, being sort of about 15, 16 at the time watching these, and having a very different outlook. This is back when like horror films would actually have an effect on me, for the most part. Again, the way that their faces were sort of contorted at the end just absolutely horrified me. And I saw this one in the cinema with my mates, and again, the reason why this one's quite memorable for me is because after seeing this, me and my mate decided it would be a good idea to phone up his younger sister and just go 7 days. And then when we got home, when we got back to his house, she opened the door and we were just like, 7 days. And she absolutely, like, obviously freaked out. And his mum went absolutely schizo. Understandably so. So the actual fear factor this film actually brought from it was intense. And yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, and oh mate, and it was a scary film. You know, the old VHS. It was all, you know, found footage in a way. You know, before found footage was really a thing.
I think it would feel really different watching it today, like so far away from, like, VHS was on the way out when this came out.
Yeah,
I think it would feel really different today.
I think well, yeah, because obviously you had the things like the DVDs that were, you know, sort of just coming into like mainstream, if you will, because, you know, you could still get a lot of things on VHS at this time. I think if you were to sort of maybe have sort of like an original concept, perhaps, and use VHSs, it's almost not a nostalgic feel, but there is almost like an antique feel that you can get from a VHS. You know, like you can get with a spooky old house. You know, you wouldn't get the same sort of spooky effect if it was like a modern condo or something along those lines. I think in some ways you can probably make it more effective, because here you've got an old piece of footage, dusty and hasn't been looked at in many years. It's out of date tech, effectively cryptic in its nature. You know, a lot of kids nowadays don't even know what a bloody VHS is. So,
What? Sorry.
Scandalous.
well, there you go. Yeah, there you go. I rest my case. But yeah, the lore behind this film was quite good. And as I say, you know, a lot of the picks that I've got were for more memorable reasons, as opposed to, you know, sort of like film quality, because as you'll see when we get sort of closer to the top, you know, it's probably not the best on the list maybe, but definitely for my own personal reasons, it's, you know, they're up there.
I think it's a solid recommendation. I mean, you said you said you could equally put the Japanese on here. I will risk a bit of heresy. I actually think this remake is better.
Yeah,
and that's for two reasons. One is because the messed up faces of the victims. I love it. I think it makes a bit of a difference. I like something a little more extreme. I like that. And the second, Empire, I feel we owe you 1 hour photo.
We do.
I feel we are going to have to do it. I'm keen, because I haven't actually seen it. So we'll fix it. The second reason I would say that this one, the Gore Verbinski version, is slightly superior, is that there is a long stretch in the original where the main character is going to investigate Sadako's family home. And it's, as you might expect from the director, it's quite a long stretch without as much happening. It's quite chilling, and it's more patient film. And that's fine, but it's so long that I like that The Ring builds in a little bit of action there. It's got that scene on the ferry where a horse gets loose and goes mad and then jumps off tragically, and it's messy. And I just felt it needed that little insert of horror and action there. Yeah. Just to kind of liven it up when there's really quite a long gap between more scary segments. Call me a pleb, but
no.
I liked it.
No, I do think that this one, the American version, is the superior version. But of course, one must respect the original source material, and which is why I'm like, if someone else was to put this on their list but use the Japanese version as opposed to the US version, I'd be completely fine with that, because I think they're both good in their own right. But yeah, this one I think just what I relate to more because I saw it first, and you know, the sort of like the teenage pranks that we played on each other off the back of this. And I do remember a week after seeing the film being a bit wary of my TV. In fact, if I remember correctly, I did turn it around. I turned my TV around
Nice.
on the 7th night, because I figured if she was going to come out for me, then she's going to hit her head first from the wall. That's my teenage brain at work, right there.
It's logical. I'll say that much.
I want to make one of those, like, the guy tapping his head memes.
Yeah.
You used to see all the bounce of like it's cool. Like I'm just gonna watch it on a mobile phone so that when she comes out the phone, she's tiny. I can just squish her.
Yeah, see, phones weren't really that sophisticated back in those days, which is a shame.
All right, are we ready for the third one?
Yes.
I like this one. You're risking a lot of heresy. There's almost a theme here.
Yeah.
Right. Dawn
of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, 2004 version, the remake, the George Romero remake one. I personally, zombie films are what get me. They're probably one of the few franchises that still, to this day, will scare the crap out of me. I think I have an irrational fear of zombies, and this was the first one where obviously the zombies were a bit more than just stumbling, slow moving, weak, easy to maneuver around zombies. These things were mental. And I think it's the opening scene with the young girl with like her jaw chewed off.
Oh, yes.
And she goes in for that woman. Oh my days, man, that freaked me out. And then obviously another guy came in soon after, and that bit where they're just sort of driving away from that street, and obviously and you're just seeing the carnage around. Oh mate, that said it for me. And of course, and I'm going to skip right to the end.
Rock out.
Yeah, but the Down with the Sickness as the ending theme. Oh mate, just again, mwah, beautiful.
It's powerful. I mean, that opening alone is wonderful. It was ripped off by the final Resident Evil movie. It's and why wouldn't you? I rewatched the 1978.
Yes,
I believe. I've rewatched it recently, and it's still great. But there is also a lot of it's taking its time. Whereas I kind of like that this is a 12-minute vignette with like it's kind of like low cutting to just build up the tension, and then you've got an almost uncut moment where the tension doesn't break. Hell is breaking loose. It's just you are so gripped in that scene.
Yeah, the escape attempt as well. When they break out of the supermarket and they've got that truck and they've absolutely souped it up to withstand essentially a massive horde, and just the way they've kit it up, the action on that bit. Being again a younger version of me was absolutely amped at that particular bit.
It gave you everything you could hope for, didn't it? It didn't call back.
Absolutely, it had everything. And again, what struck me about this film as well was that this was the first, again, horror that I'd sort of come across where they toyed with the idea of, God, I want to try and keep this stream family friendly, but shall we say sort of like the more youthful kind of zombie, i.e. being born one. And sort of like the subject in terms of how they handled that. Again, it wasn't it wasn't like a long-winded sort of scene, but it was powerful enough to sort of make you think, would you do the same in that situation or not? Very reminiscent of I think The Walking Dead almost, but obviously a different outcome, substantially different outcome. But just that scene where sort of like they pull the sort of like the little sheet back and you see the baby open its eyes and it lets out a horrific scream, and then I think it's a single gunshot afterwards, and you just think, could you do the same? Knowing it had teeth.
Something about this that I liked was it did sort of, it had, how can I say, like it played with a premise, and it sort of asked the questions, because you might watch a few of these movies and you do start to think like, what if you got bit when you were pregnant?
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes through with it like that. How would you get out of it? I don't know. Armor up a bus into a killdozer?
Done.
It just plays with the premise and it goes all out. And it's an absolutely fabulous pick. Haryan, have you seen this Zack Snyder joy?
I have not.
Okay.
I've heard it's homophobic.
Oh yeah, it's got everything you want in it. It's brilliant.
I would recommend
just
as well
right.
watching the original version as well, because yeah, the original version, you know, is special in its own right. I think really the sort of I think really the main similarity between that and the remake is the setting. It is quite different from what I can recall in terms of its premise, but the setting, obviously being a supermarket, that's pretty much the main thing that links the original to the new one. But yeah, you have to see both of them. In no particular order, Harry. You know, you can start with the 2004 version and go back to the 1978.
Yeah. Very, very, very different films.
Yeah.
They're also, I was trying to be legit. I was trying to be responsible. Really hard to get Dawn of the Dead 1978 version on Blu-ray or DVD. However, many versions of it are on YouTube, just in HD, in 4K. Wow. And yeah, because there's like 4 or 5 cuts of it.
Okay.
So you can have your 2-hour version, you can have your 3-hour version. It's quite amazing.
Wow. I didn't know there were so many versions of that one.
It caught me out too. Fun
and I
times.
think, didn't Zack Snyder have his hand in the 2004 one?
Yeah, he directed it.
Yeah. I thought he did. Yeah,
and
Snyder Cut.
He brings such a different feel to it that, you know, you're watching such a different product that you can just watch them both.
And the color and the color tone, like the tones of color they use in that film, it's very rich colors. And I feel like for that sort of time period, 2000, sort of like the early 2000s, it was a very different style of coloring to use on a film at that time. Sort of very reminiscent of I think like Bad Boys 2, I want to say, in sort of how like scenes were imaged in terms of the coloring of them, very rich, highly absorbent colors. Again, really, I really like that about the 2004 version of Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'd say it's probably Zack Snyder's best film.
Yeah.
No, fantastic choice. Now I go over to the penultimate one, and I'm wondering, like, are you trying to? It's been crowd pleasers. Are you trying to get some credibility here?
No. All right. Again, there's personal reasons for it. So
all right,
it's not
here
about.
We go.
Of course, it's Halloween, the original, the 1978 one. Again, you know, you can throw in. I'm probably might pee off a few people, but I tend to write off the Rob Zombie remakes. I just can't stand them. But this one, it's so simple. It's a nut job who has a penchant for taking out babysitters, breaks out of his asylum, and decides on the night, I'm going to try and kill some babysitters.
Sounds great.
You got Dr. Loomis, you know, the almost evangelical guy who you know, is trying to warn everybody. Nobody's paying attention.
Dr. Loomis is absolutely based in this film.
He's
just like, no, put him down.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, he is my favorite character in that film. He does not care. He's like, this guy is pure evil. I've tried for many years to try and rehabilitate him. I look into his eyes. I see nothing but pure evil. He's broken out. What you need to do is shoot first and ask questions. Never. Just trust me. All right. Trust me.
Keep your rifle by your side.
Yeah.
2 points of fun trivia. Obviously, like, without Halloween, we're not having Scream, because without Halloween, a heck of a lot of the format of our slasher films does not happen. It's beyond influential. Like, it's a canon text. But 2 little points. Dr. Loomis gives the surname to Billy Loomis in Scream.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a far more subtle point is right at the beginning, when Drew Barrymore's parents get back. We're not bothering with character names much. And one of them, the dad, says to the mother, like, quick, run down to the Mackenzies.
Yep.
He's copying a line from Halloween.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
But of course, Dr. Loomis is named after Sam Loomis,
Yeah.
in Psycho.
There you go. And also, another bit of trivia. This
Mm.
is my favourite film outside Star Trek that William Shatner appeared in.
William Shatner?
Wow.
Yep.
Better than
amazing.
Airplane
Oh,
2.
of course,
There you
of
go.
course. So you had me for that.
Yeah.
Had me for a second.
So I think as the story goes, so they had this idea that obviously before obviously the famous now the infamous mask of Michael Myers came about. I can't remember exactly what the background is, but the original mask they had was either damaged or they just didn't like it, and so they were like, well, get a new one. And so they went down to this this fancy dress shop, and in there were William Shatner masks from Star Trek, and so they basically just took the eyes out of it and put some like hair bits in it and whitened it up, and hey presto, William Shatner has been effectively the face of Michael Myers for the best part of 45 years now.
Yeah, it's genius. It's an interesting one to come to. Harry, have you seen Halloween?
No.
Okay, we'll go light on details.
I know. I know the premise though, and it's one of those that's referenced everywhere. I think it seems to be someone at Infinity Ward's favorite film because every Call of Duty game Infinity Ward make, and Michael Myers mask character will appear somewhere in a DLC or something.
Okay.
Yeah, they seem to really like Halloween. So Call of Duty Modern Warfare has one as well, I think.
I think he's also a character, like a DLC character in Dead by Daylight as well.
He is,
yeah. But again, personal reasons as to why I like this film, not only because of the storyline being just a straightforward. It doesn't need, there's nothing complicated about it. It's just a straightforward slasher film. But almost revolutionary for its time because of the simplicity of it. But not only that, my wife is again like my irrational fear of the undead. She has an irrational fear of Michael Myers. So again, like where zombie films are the films that do me in, this entire franchise, even the poor ones, she sees that face and yeah, she loses it.
Nice.
So
that's
it's very near and dear to me in that regard.
Oh, I like it. It's solid. It's solid. It's I think people watching it fresh, it's maybe an interesting one for them. It's probably like the 1978 Dawn of the Dead. I mean, hey, same year. Interesting. It's going to challenge the patience of a lot of people, I think. It's going to be quite a test of them because Michael doesn't really get going for quite a way into the film. I think it is just so much build up for at least 45 minutes before stuff really starts happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's that scene as well in the again, just to sort of go back to add tension to the film is when that mother and daughter, they sort of like take a quick pit stop, didn't they? And they go into the toilets, and obviously Michael Myers comes in, and you're thinking because you've got daughter in one cubicle, mother in the next cubicle, and obviously you're thinking, oh my god, like if you've seen more recent films and you sort of think about how he behaves in situations like that, you're thinking, oh god, dead. But yeah, he just nicks the keys, doesn't he? But the tension you feel, especially if you're watching that for the first time, you've got a vulnerable woman who is unable to protect her child because she's in a separate cubicle to essentially her little girl, and you just think, oh my god, like the worst thoughts start going through your head in that moment, and then that tension is just lifted once you realize, no, okay, thank God.
And yeah, it's a great moment. I think that moment tends to get ignored. And there's another moment I absolutely love, which is when the tension's been released and Laurie is running. She's just encountered for the first time. She's had to fight and smash through a window to get free. And she's running from Michael, and she runs down the street and she's screaming for help. And you're getting big sort of Kitty Genoese murders vibes, if anyone remembers that. And she runs up to her house with a light on, and she's hammering at the door, and she's saying, let me in, help me out. and you see someone come to the window and then close the curtain.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh gosh, that gives me the chills. That bit it's such a small moment that doesn't get commented on, but it's absolutely horrifying.
And do you find as well, especially in that sort of time, in that sort of era, that would almost be unlikely to happen? Like nowadays, you can imagine someone being like, "Nope, don't want to get involved in that." But I think, sort of, if you're talking sort of like the late 70s, early 80s, I think it would be less of a thing. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like people would be more inclined to help. And I think the shock value of that particular scene is because it's almost like, why is that person not helping? I'd help. I'd do that.
No, definitely. A fantastic choice. Obviously, very influential in the canon. Haryan, I might have to say extra homework for that one.
That's fine. I deserve it.
No, it's cool. I think something we actually need to do is one on horror games, where you probably have more experience than, well, definitely me.
Yeah, the roles will switch in that one. I don't play horror games.
The student becomes the master.
Yeah, I
don't mind that because I can play I can talk for about an hour alone, and I can tell where influence comes from as well.
Yeah,
because obviously, just an example, Outlast. Obviously, that's found footage kind of inspired. It's just a shame that when it comes to horror games, it's really shit. But I can talk about it, as I say.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I played PT and I nearly had a mental breakdown.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I'm the kind of guy who would watch his mates play Resident Evil, but still like freak out at the jump scares. Like I've done that embarrassingly. And again, teenage years, and my mates, man, they just ribbed into me. Like when his hand sort of drops on the door, man. Like I said, I think I said it before. I've got terrible friends, but.
I mean, when I was like 10 or something, I watched my brother play a bit of Resident Evil 1, and even though the graphics by today's standards are, obviously just they look like cubes, still bloody terrifying.
Yeah, I probably still couldn't play it. Seriously,
I believe you. It's a zombie game, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I can talk about some highlights from that. Yeah.
I think we should do that.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, there was actually your old Barry Norman there. There was actually a mini game produced for the Dawn of the Dead remake. There's actually one that you favoured, and it was just like a short game that you played on the website where it was emulating the scene where they have to go and get the petrol cans or restart the generator or something in the basement, and they're surrounded by a metal cage. And it's just you with a shotgun trying to spin around and take out zombies while they climb the fence. It was quite epic. So random bit of trivia that I remember from 2004 there.
2000s, like films had come out and there'd be websites with loads of games on them. I remember Simpsons movie came out with one as well. It was a weird time, the early 2000s, for things like that. I don't seem to do it anymore.
I've got a feeling from the chat that your choices have been approved of here. Nothing too controversial.
Hopefully, I do. I feel like I've missed a couple out that because I know I think Empire mentioned it. Obviously, Candyman. I need to go back and watch. White Noise. It's brilliant, that film. I would rate that. Wrong Turn as well. From Dusk Till Dawn, I'd need to go back and watch that one personally. But yeah, Wrong Turn, White Noise. The Hills of Eyes, I don't know if that's been mentioned, but that's another one.
Original or the Alejandro Ojala?
I've only seen the newer version.
You saw the best one.
Yeah, and that good stuff. And that for me again, a certain scene in that which I won't go into too much detail over, but I found really disturbing.
I think I could guess the one, but we won't go into it. I think we should get to your number one film, which
let's.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. They probably surprise a few people. All right, boom.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter. So this, for those who don't know, this is the fourth part of the Friday the 13th franchise. Again, please bear in mind when I've picked my top five, these are more of personal choices as opposed to quality choices. I think it goes without saying that the other 4 films that we've mentioned in my top 5, in terms of quality, are probably a bit better than this particular one. But for me, again, personal reasons, me and my wife, a while ago we used to have the entire box set of the Friday the 13th films. I think it was up to I say complete. It was up to Jason Takes Manhattan, I think it was. And this was the one that we would always go back to. And Crispin Glover was a major factor because his character is just, I mean, you have to see it. You have to see it. There's one scene in particular when he asks this girl for a dance. Now, a quick fact, the music that's played isn't the music that Crispin was listening to at the time. But even still, even if it was the original, you have to check out the moves. It's amazing.
I should have got the clip up.
Do you know, I was tempted to put it, but obviously things like copyright and all that malarkey. But guys, you have to see this one. This is, you think, I would almost think The Room, you know, it was such a bad film that it was good. Now, this was probably one of the best Friday the 13th, but it's probably the best sort of analogy that I can give. The storyline's quite coherent in a way, but the deaths are hilarious. As I say, Crispin Glover is just incredible in this film. he's just top notch, absolute legend. Of course, you have the computer. There's quotables. You've got the computer. You've got the dead frick. Again, keeping it family friendly. Of course, this film as well has the most amount of boobs for a Friday the 13th film, which is an absolute must if you're making a Friday the 13th film. If it doesn't have boobs, I think I've said to you before, Proper Horror Show, if it doesn't have those, it ain't a Jason film.
True.
So this has the most. Yeah, some of the deaths are absolutely comical. One in particular, again, you can't see my face, but if you go and watch this film, think of, just have in mind girl, dinghy, lake. Just have that in mind. That's probably my most funny death in that. But yeah, me and my wife, you know, when we talk about Friday films, we'll quote a lot of the stuff that happens in this one. Personally, we've got sort of like the humor like that. So yeah, for me personally, just because of the feels, the memories, the influence it's had on our own relationship, this for me is the top one.
No, it's a solid choice. I think it's the personal touch is lovely. It's also, it has to be said, like, I think we agreed that this was actually the best one. Like, I had a lot of fun with 6 and 7, but this one, I think it does. It knows what it is. Obviously, I think I've said before that by this point in the series, Jason is Jason. He's not an old lady. He's not a hillbilly with a bag on his head.
No.
He's got his hockey mask. He's more iconic. He knows what he's doing. They've run the formula a few times.
Yeah.
And some of the cheesier, some of the cheesy elements that were in the first part are gone. So one of the things that sort of inspired a lot of mockery is they literally have like the classic body just popping into frame for very weak reasons, if we're honest. They've removed some of that, but you've still got a big ensemble cast. And in terms of tone, I think it's really well judged because it knows its audience. It comes in and, you know, you're kind of in for a fun time, aren't you? This is not super serious. So it's got loads of stuff you're having a laugh with. You're not taking it too seriously, but they do have with the mother and son, the son played by young Corey Feldman, who gets a wonderful cameo in part 5, which is the only bit in part 5 worth watching, apart from a picnic scene I included in a movie. Family friendly. And it's that mother-son dynamic where I feel very cleverly, it's got the slashing teens to bits for sort of giggles bit done, and then it kind of lures you into the end that is actually a bit more disturbing. It's actually a bit more serious. You do care about the mother and daughter more, and it goes into quite disturbing territory in the end, and putting the kid at a lot more risk.
Yeah,
I think that's brave for the series.
Yeah, and it does ask questions. It does sort of like not sort of like pose the question, sort of like how a traumatic event like what they've gone through, how would it impact a young child? You know?
Yeah, and for whatever happened in the ongoing series, this started the beginning of the Tommy Jarvis character, which even if he was not used particularly well or consistently in the rest of the series, they start something and they have a good idea here.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think a very solid choice there.
Yay!
It's also I like this is clearly, these are the films that you like. These aren't, because sometimes if someone asks me, you know, for mine or my favorites, I'm almost like tempted, like, I need to sound like a serious horror critic. I need to be original and obscure.
Yeah.
Like,
see, again, like I think we go back to sort of like the earlier sort of streams that we've done. I've said in the past, like I never really sort of sat down until we've started doing this, where I'm watching horrors with a sort of analytical mind. I've just gone in and like, do I like what I see? Is it enjoyable? Can I walk away from it and think, yeah, okay, I can watch that? And the 5 films that I've picked are films that when I look at them, not with an analytical mind, but just with a, did I have fun watching them? These are films that I can easily go. But I've watched this. I watched the part 4 again just last night after American Mary because I needed to sanitize myself from that film. So you know that was my medicine, was to go back and watch that film. So you know I know exactly what's going to happen, but it just it's just the same results for me every time. Again, please go and watch part 4, even if it's just for that. Even if it's just Crispin Glover that you watch and his character, and his friend as well, which their names escape me, but just their sort of chemistry and just their mannerisms and behaviour is just is brilliant. They would be great characters in the room. Let's put it that way.
Were you maybe ever tempted to list part 2 just for the bit where they push the diversity quite a lot in the series, and so part 2 they jump straight to having a character in a wheelchair.
They did that before, didn't they?
In part 2, and they're so savage with the poor sod.
Well, when you watch the 4th one, they go back and revisit, because you're getting like a sort of like an up until now, sort of like what's happened before. And I love that because that actually, funnily enough, is, you know, regardless, you know, part 4 is my favorite Friday the 13th film, but the death of the guy in the wheelchair is my absolute favorite. And I love that in part 4, when they're going through the events leading up until where they are now, they include that particular one. And it's not just like a quick clip gone. It's death, and then you see the after effect, and then it carries on. So it's almost like it takes a little bit of extra time on that one, and I like that.
Well, they should. I mean, it's memorable.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, the guy Haryan Gláeddyv. It's in the later stages. There's the guy in the wheelchair and 2 nubile teens, and they go upstairs to, I don't know, solve a crossword puzzle, maybe really do a super fiendish Sudoku, and he's just down there on his own, and then Jason comes and offs him.
Nice.
Absolutely savage.
A certain someone would like all the 10s, shall we say?
All right.
You can't see me, but I'm winking.
I got you.
So I don't know, very jargony there. I didn't pick up on it all.
Oh.
Oh
dear.
It's all good. It's
That is the worst joke I've heard on this channel.
Speaking of the worst on this channel.
Love that segue.
Yeah.
It's smooth, wasn't it? It was very smooth. If I could have got the image switched over quicker, it would have been even smoother. But what can I do? Okay. So we got a question, which means I don't have to talk about this film for a moment. I'll just address it quickly. Fez, no, I haven't. I haven't even heard of it. It's a horror film, I assume, if you're asking me. Sorry, never heard of it. Maybe we'll have to look it up.
It is a horror film. It's French, I think. Oh, Spanish. Spanish film. Fermat's Room.
I'm sorry. I should have maybe re-emphasized my sort of J horror and K horror credentials, because I'm feeling like an amateur now. So
it's like an escape room type thing.
Oh, hello.
Which could be interesting.
Wow. One of my favourite horrors is Cube.
Yes.
A Canadian production based on...
Yep.
Oh, really, Haryan? Good lad.
I've not seen it, no.
I've seen Cube. And it's brilliant.
I think we need to set Cube as a film to analyse.
Definitely.
Okay, folks. So, speaking of Canadian horror films, as this one is... It's kind of false advertising, isn't it? This is not American. It's all Canadian. They're all Leafs. American Mary is not a film I assigned to troll people. It's a film I didn't know all that much about when I first watched it. It was recommended highly by the people at Red Letter Media. And
really?
Yes. They listed they were, I think, being sort of derisive of a recent release, and they said, actually, no, go ahead and watch a whole bunch of films, and one of these was American Mary. So it's kind of in the back of my head, and I ended up seeing it was on Netflix. And I thought, oh, Katherine Isabelle's in it. You know, I've recently watched another Canadian winner, Ginger Snaps. Holds up really well. I'm up for this. Let's do it. And I really liked the visuals on the poster as well. I thought this looks really good. It would be... It's not going to be the favourite film we cover.
I'm definitely not.
And it's not what I expected it to be, but I think we can actually, in talking about this film, we can cover a lot of what makes a film work. And we can, I think, be quite incisive about where there were things that worked well and where there were problems with the film. Because I don't want to just say it's all trash. I tend not to cover things that I think are out and out, utter garbage that I have nothing to say about other than pure hatred. So I would not cover Jack and Diane, which was one of those films. I don't tend to quit films, but my gosh, I was close. Jack and Diane is not even once, folks, not even once. It was billed as an LGBT werewolf film. It barely had any of those elements. I'm getting annoyed just thinking about it. American Mary is fantastic in its premise, and it is full of promise. But where I think we're going to find the problem is in the delivery, because there is. Yeah. So let's talk about that premise. Do any of you want to do a rough wrap up, or do you want me to give the overall idea of the film?
I can give sort of like a very brief summary or a brief synopsis. So Mary is a medical student, heavily racked in debt, and she is basically looking for work. And she stumbles across a strip club who find out through her resume that she's training to be a surgeon and performs an operation on someone there, and then it sort of spirals from there.
Yeah, can I stop you at that point?
Yeah.
Because I think let's talk. I was really into the film at this point. I thought this was really intelligent. I loved that you started with gross little details like practicing suturing on a chicken carcass. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just my wussy vegan tendencies getting in the way there. You were also a bit grossed out by that, right?
Well, yeah, I don't like close-ups of a turkey being cut up and sewn back together. I like eating meat. I don't like carving is fine when it's cooked, but mutilating a dead turkey, even if it is drained of blood.
Kind of a genius choice. I thought she was relatable. I think it's very understandable. She's got this kind of attitude, and she's incredibly skilled, but she's also kind of a mess, and so she's not just a Mary Sue. And she gets into this predicament where she needs the money, and I kind of liked how she goes into the strip club and she is just so nonplussed about it and not bothered and not fussed. Hey, Mr. Gently Beloved, welcome. How you doing, mate?
I agree. I was kind of into the film up until this point. The potential was there. It set. Initially it was sort of quite straightforward. Here's a girl who's in medical school. She's struggling for debts, and obviously she's gone to this seedy place to try and earn some money. And the whole here's my resume. And it's just like, you don't want to see that, mate. Come on. It was almost very sort of not naive, if you will, sort of almost innocent, of her. And I kind of got that like that.
And I liked the twist. It's a good twist, she's not into it, and then suddenly there's this chaotic spin around this random event that kicks everything off, that some guy in very dodgy circumstances needs medical attention, and she's like, she's not going to do it, and then he's like, so what about some cold hard cash?
Yeah Was it $5,000?
It sets up everything you need. Like, this is someone who's got a desperate problem. She really needs money. It's very relatable, and she compromises her morals because of that in a kind of horrific way. Like, that is a strong premise. We are looking really good at this point, and I was into the movie.
It's just a shame that's where all that ends.
Yep.
I was into it a bit longer, actually, because I think we then we're building up the picture of how this film goes. So we've got that element in play. She's done some dodgy surgery illegally to help solve her money problems, but she's still in the school.
Yeah, I love it. What was she? What surgery was she actually performing? Because it just looked like the guy had his eye was cut open or something. I thought he had like a slit. I thought he had like a slit from like his lower lip all the way down, so it looked like someone had taken a knife and just straight through the middle of him.
It was nasty, but it was quite unclear.
Yeah,
but
which is fine.
We get the next element, which is quite interesting. She's trying to make her way and in the medical world, and she's got this attitude, but she's also very talented, and so she then gets invited to a private party, which she thinks is going to be a networking event.
Yep.
Do you guys want to pick up on that thread?
Well, no, we can do. Just we skipped like 5 important scenes, I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, because there's the whole bit where the Betty Boop character, Beatrice, she picks up a resume, which I assume was left in the strip club, and she's a surgeon. And that's how she starts then getting into more money, because a woman wants cosmetic surgery to remove her nipples and sew up her
FGM.
Yes, basically.
That's going to go
consensual.
consensual.
Yeah, I mean, her reasoning for it's like, people don't find dolls sexual because of this, and it's like, I've been on 4chan. I'm not.
She's going to end up in a jar.
I was pressing X hard at that moment.
Yeah, but it's like Yeah, I mean, I can believe she thinks that, but yeah, that's fine. So she earns like 10,000 from that. I mean, this was the only scene that I found funny, because I noticed on this poster you've got, it says stylish, artful, and darkly funny. I'd say it's stylish, and that's about it. This film.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say stylish. I'd say artful, because obviously, I suppose in some ways it's subjective. I mean, it's not my kind of art, but they obviously they make it a very poignant theme that this is a specific body. It's the body modification community, so there is an artful element. I didn't laugh once in this film though, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad, or 2 out of 4, like you say. She's not American.
Yeah.
So they were working along that. I mean, the way I think of it, I think about storylines, but you're absolutely right. They are developing the let's go with descent, maybe into the illegal body mod world, where it's getting a bit weird, it's getting a bit dangerous, and that scene is a kind of nice, it's an escalation of what's happened before. This is good storytelling. She's coaxed into something a lot dodgier, and the character is, I mean, kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, she looks weird. Of course she does. She's supposed to have had a load of surgery. I'm not sure where she got all her money from, because she's like, oh, money's no problem, and you don't find out why, because all you know is that she's a stripper.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever. This film isn't very good. But the only bit that made me laugh in that scene was because it's like, oh, my niece, she's like a receptionist in a vet. So, oh, that means we can have full access to the vets after hours. It's like, no, a receptionist doesn't have access to that. But again, this film isn't very good. But yeah, the way the receptionist was just like being a really sarky girl, although I could use the B word there. Just Beatrice saying like, "Oh, don't be a C word" in like the Betty Boop voice. That was the bits that made me laugh.
Right.
Just because it was so out of character. But it's not even good jokes. As I keep saying, this film's not very good. But it's also in that scene, Mary, when she finds out what surgery she's performing, she goes back out to Beatrice and she's like, so she does want that, right? This isn't like set up. Beatrice is like, yeah. So clearly she's like fine with working on people for money, as long as everyone's consenting, which is fine. For now, we'll say.
Oh, I suppose that bit was quite comical. Yeah, when she goes out, she's like, "Do you really want that?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay."
Yeah, it's not a great joke. I saw it more as a character thing. But yeah,
and it's a difficult role. But like, there's the bit where she sneaks into Mary's apartment.
Yeah,
and she sneaks like that. That gave me the judders.
Yeah,
right?
That worked.
Yeah, that was the only bit that in any way scared me throughout the whole film, just where she walks through in the background. Reminded me of Blind Manor with the Lady of the Lake.
Yeah.
It's a nice feature. So interestingly, when I saw this was on Netflix, I noticed the title, and Netflix gives you a preview of a scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it previewed the scene where Beatrice is offering Mary money to do this procedure, but is keeping it very she doesn't specify. And the way she talked about it gave me a really different impression of what this film was going to be about, what it was going to be talking about. I thought it was really sort of heavily coded in like sort of trans terminology. And I thought, just like the way she's talking about it, I want a procedure to remove a little extra skin that I don't want, and it's going to make me feel happy. Like, I really thought that was where it was going. It wasn't. And I had that reading in my mind for a lot of the film. So it was kind of another way in which the film just did not go where I thought it was leading me, which is kind of a consistent, I think I would say, problem.
Yeah,
I'm very
definitely.
surprised that if a film is, setting up I'll give a good example. Hopefully, there is a 1943 film called "To Have and Have Not," with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, and it's basically the plot is Casablanca again, and they are setting up trying to recruit Bogart to take a daring mission to help the Free French against the Vichy regime. And it's this mission to Devil's Island is being talked about the whole film. And he eventually, spoilers, he agrees, he's in the fight, and the film ends. And it's like, what?
Nice.
No, you're talking about that the whole movie. Are you not going to show us the mission? Really?
Yeah.
And they don't. The film just ends with them walking out the door. And this was kind of like that. If I feel I'm being taken in one direction, I can only be sort of diverted at so many times before it's a bit confusing.
And also, you want to see things drawn to their conclusion. Yeah. There was quite a few bits in this film that I just felt either skipped parts of that story or just didn't just weren't resolved. Obviously I'm not going to get into one just yet because we're not at that point in the discussion, but we'll when we get to it I'll make sure to bring it up because that really annoyed me, this one bit. But yeah, this film up until sort of like you said, the it started off well because again the story was kind of consistent and somewhat cohesive in what it was trying to build. But after that particular scene with the emergency operation, it started to go a bit wayward after that. I'd probably say it was probably after the operation on Barbie. I'll call her Barbie. That it really started.
I think her name was Ruby.
Ruby, yeah.
It's Ruby Real Doll.
That's it.
Yeah.
Real doll being an interesting term.
Yeah.
I didn't research this. Was Real Doll... Actually, I don't want to talk about Real Doll on the stream.
I don't think it's referencing anything.
No.
But a problem with this film, things just kind of happen. There's not...
Yeah.
Especially after that scene, everything just seems to happen for like no reason.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, this is happening now. Why? Oh, I don't know. Oh, now, she's being told she could go on holiday with him. She's not accepting. Why is she not accepting? I don't know. Things are happening. Oh, now she's intimidating someone. Why? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. We're getting into, by the end. There's definitely that, and I'm glad you're picking up on what I picked up on. I'm happy to be challenged as well, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just it's nice that I'm not sort of like out on my own here. So I think we're starting actually with a really good premise. We've got a good actress. It's well shot. It's intriguing. It's very intriguing. This is a new idea. Like she's being drawn in, and the potential is there. She's doing creepy stuff. I think this relies on you. It does rely on you having a sense of horror towards these people who are making themselves look uncanny.
Yeah.
Like these are, as you saw from Beatrice there, she's quite uncanny to look at. It's uncanny valley. She's not quite right. And then the idea of someone sort of de-sexing themselves is you're into just like not the horror of someone being shot or stabbed or hanged or burned. You're into something kind of disquieting and unsettling. And that's quite strong. And the premise is there. Like she's people who are kind of odd characters are hearing about her and asking her to do weird and dangerous things for money. It's like, this is strong horror potential.
Definitely.
But from there, it did not go what I thought. And shall we introduce the sort of med school plot?
Yeah.
Then comes in.
It's just, it's the stupidest thing. I mean, do you want me to kind of explain what I took?
Give us a scenario from what happens with the party and the med school.
Right. So obviously she's a trainee surgeon. So she's kind of doing placements, and she's just she's what so obviously she's struggling to pay for going to lectures and things, and she ends up missing one for some reason. She gets a call from the lecturer. I can't remember why she misses it. So he just keeps swearing as well, and I don't really get why. I've had lecturers that swear, but he does it every other sentence.
I know, he was effing and jeffing quite. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like mind it, but I'm just like, it's a bit odd for a because I've just known so many lecturers and none of them do that. So then they have a scene after she's been to a lecture and she's like distracted because she has to check her phone because of student loans calling her and things like that, and she's struggling with that. And then we get the rest of the premise. He's like, "Oh, stop effing up! Like surgeons only get one chance; they never make mistakes and things like that." Which, I mean, if anyone sees the news, they know that's not true. So then there's the whole scenes we've gone through past the Betty Boop scene and all that, and then she is this the bit where she's at the hospital with class, and some guy comes out, some other surgeon tells the head surgeon who's in charge of all the pupil students, like, obviously he tells him someone's just had a heart attack, so he's like, "Oh, go in there, tell the family in the waiting room that their dad's had a heart attack." And I'm like,
yeah,
wait, this is one of the things where it's like things are just happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why is she doing that? That's not her job. She wasn't, like, it's the doctor, it's the family doctor that usually does that. But
yeah, like she's got no history, she's got no information to go by, because no doubt they're going to have questions.
Yeah, exactly. So she just goes in. You don't hear her anything. The camera just shows her going in, talking to him a bit, and then she just comes straight back. And then he's like, "Oh, how'd that go?" She's like, "Oh, they're a little upset." And he's like, "Well, that's understandable. Now tell them that he's dead." It's like, what? This is so weird. I never go to this hospital again.
Yeah.
So that was just one of those small weird scenes where nothing really happens, and then it goes on a bit. She's outside for some reason. I think she's going to the shift the next day. Beatrice is there. Betty Boop's there again to ask her for another job. Is it more money for more surgery?
Yeah.
That's good though. That's building it up. Like, now she's following her. That makes you a bit anxious. I like that scene. That was okay.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with Betty Boop being outside the hospital. It's then she goes in the hospital, and then the two guy surgeon, the lecturer and the guy surgeon who's in charge is in there. And, the guy surgeon says, "Oh, do you want to come to a gathering we're having with a load of head guys at my house?" So then, of course, she's got a load of money. She spends money on a dress to go there, which the guy notices. And then there's another thing, things that are just happening. There's the weird Asian guy that's like, she says, "Oh, who are you?" And he's like, I'm an effing mother effer. I'm gonna get effed. And I'm like, what is going? I assumed he was just drunk out of his mind. I'm like, okay.
Can I just stop you there for just a second?
Yeah,
just go back to when he was in when she was invited. Clearly, right, there were red flags going off in my head when he said, "Oh, come around about 10 o'clock."
Yes.
Like, come on, love. Like you they're all going to be like, this is already something fishy about it. It's like, come around at like 7, 6. Come around at 7 o'clock.
I mean, I don't know if
why 10 o'clock? I don't know
it's
if
a late shift thing, but you're right. It's a good red flag that's planted. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. That's all right.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't possibly, but I mean, if it wasn't a red flag, I mean, given what's going on at that party, I don't think it really matters what time it starts. But no, you're right. It's a red flag, but one that could be avoided. But I guess it kind of works. But after that bit, is it her lecturer that's like, "Oh, have a drink"? It turns out it's drugged. So he's like, "Oh, I'll take you into the other room." She walks past some woman who's got her tits out, and like 3 or 4 other surgeons are just having a wank around her.
That's she's going on in the background as well. Which I
almost missed that. I had to go back and I was like, "Hang on, what the because I was not going to make the same mistakes I made with Bly Manor.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's just great.
But yeah, it's just like there's no indication that they're rapists, but then they all are. And
Yeah.
which I mean, this is the thing. At the start when she's like doing the surgery in a lingerie at the strip club, I'm like, oh well, this. I was like, well, this was probably directed by a man. But then you get to that bit, and I'm like, wow, this is feminist heaven. And I found out it was by a couple of sisters, and I'm like, what is wrong with them?
I thought it at this point. I was weirded out. I was like, okay, there's some choices here that have made it's kind of moving away from reality. Like I'm thinking, that Asian doctor who's just saying things that no human would.
Yeah, I mean, it was at this point in the film where I just tapped out, and I'm like, right, I'm just laughing at the rest of it because this is garbage.
Oh man, I was still there. I thought this had good horror potential, even if it was completely unexpected for me.
For me, I'm the same as Harry, and I tapped out at this point because my personal opinion was they could have done without this scene, or they could have put this scene somewhere else, possibly even earlier in the movie. It was just poorly placed and almost unnecessary.
It's a very separate strand of story. You can have separate strands, but how do you make that work with
it's got to connect to the main theme at some point, and it just looks like this was shoehorned in either to send a message, which, to be honest, I mean, if there was a message, I missed it because I was just like, what on earth is going on here? Or they thought this is a great place to put an R scene in, and I'm just like, I mean,
awful.
Yeah, I mean,
it really was.
They could have made it a whole, because obviously the actions that Mary takes afterwards. I mean, you could easily stick that at the beginning of the film, where she's struggling, and this is an opportunity for her, and it all goes pear-shaped, and then she leaves, and then ends up getting this opportunity at the strip club, and then the things spiral from there. I think they could have, if they put it in earlier,
I just would have got rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, equally. I mean, if it's like it, but I'm only saying that as if they absolutely wanted this particular scene in there, this was the wrong place to put it. It should have been in much earlier.
Or just don't have it as like every single surgeon being a rapist.
Yeah, I mean, but they could have had if they were going to put that in there, because obviously they had all the surgeons in there, then there's a possibly a discussion to have about sort of like the structural power within the, within that particular institution, because if you're going to go with a message of what I suspect these sisters were trying to make, would it not be better to have this particular scene in the beginning? She tries to raise her concerns, but realizes that she can't because everybody is in on it, and therefore she chooses to then leave and then fall down this road, rather than just come into this body modification community and then just somehow have this happen to her, and then she leaves anyway, and then obviously we'll pick up the rest as we go. But I just felt like this would have worked so much better if they were going to have this particular scene in. If they had it at the beginning of the film or much earlier on, and have that be a sort of a motivational drive for her to go into the industry that she ended up going into, and then having the motivation to then do what she decided to do afterwards once she realized no one's going to listen to me, no one's going to believe me.
Yeah, if I was going to redo that scene, I'd have it as a normal dinner party, and then after that, when everyone leaves, he's like, oh, stay back a bit, Mary, like, here's another drink. Then he drugs her. Just have it as him as an individual. That makes a lot more sense.
But even then, like, just the placing of it, for me, it just felt really out of place. I just looked at it and I was like, that could have been at the beginning. That could be much earlier in the film. It didn't.
Because it happens halfway through. Yeah, and it's just when it turns on a dime. It's like, oh, this is an R story now.
Yeah,
like, is it? What?
Yeah, she's already invested in the body modification community. Yeah. She's got her financial avenue sorted out at this point.
Yes.
From there, so to have that in there at that particular point, it just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, let's break that down in story terms. She's got this horrible problem, lack of money,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gets solved, and then
Yeah.
another problem comes in. It's like, and then she's out of school anyway. It's like this sort of negates the problem. It doesn't then build on it or divert it. It's so weirdly your attention gets lifted and then raised again and dropped, and it's just you're kind of muddled. Whereas I like that it sounds like you did what I was doing, which was like mentally reordering the film.
Yeah.
I don't scrap whole parts of this. I just I mentally I wanted to pick blocks of the story up and move them around in the film. And I would have loved this one. I think that absolutely would work if she starts off with that and she's booted out early, and she's out of she can't be a doctor and she's got the debt. And it's maybe a bit more conventional, but it would be
it makes more sense.
It absolutely would make more sense because because it's already established in the beginning of the film that she's down on her luck anyway because of the debts that she's under, and it would just make more sense for her to then have this additional trauma imposed upon her to the point where she is now like Proper Show says, she's got no career now as a surgeon because she's been, pardon the pun, but screwed out of it. And now she's having to resort to effectively applying at strip clubs to try and make money to not only keep herself afloat but to pay off these debts that she's amounted because of because now she's out of the chance of becoming a surgeon. And then she falls into the body mod community, and then she sees a way of revenge, if you will. It just
I mean, we've not even got to my biggest issue with the R scene. Why in the hell are they all recording it? I don't understand why they all have cameras out and recording it.
Why
it just seems so stupid to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care how much you think you get away with it. I've never known anyone. Well, I've never known a R word, an artist. But I've never heard, like, you've done true crime. I've never heard of anyone who's R worded and recorded it.
Yeah, no, there are.
I'm sure there are, but
the toy box killer is probably one that springs to mind just off the bat. There's also a certain financier, billionaire, who definitely offed himself, who recorded his clients doing the deed in a bid to extort them. But yeah, the toy box. I mean, toy box killer is a big one. He definitely did, and.
But okay, on a scale of insanity, was he on it? Well, that's what I mean.
He absolutely was. He was. Him and his wife were both recording it because it's just a sick fantasy. At the end of the day, they feel untouchable, and these people in this position would obviously feel the same way. So it's not out of the realms of. It's not unfeasible, but it's stupid. It's almost. It's a ridiculous thing to do if you're going to do something like that, but people have done it. And
sure, but my whole point is that the people who have done it, the toy box killer, on some sort of scale, insane. I mean, his job wasn't surgeon, was it?
No, but these
extort people.
But these people, these surgeons, are definitely psychopathic. I mean, you get that sense when they're talking to her before they've invited her, the way that they make their dark jokes, quote unquote, and their nonchalance about cutting into people and the enjoyment they get. That's definitely not normal human behavior. So you kind of establish that these people aren't, they don't care. And that would be something people like the toy box killer would fall into.
There is kind of a theme that they did get in, and I don't feel a lot happened with it, but it's there that you have to sort of be comfortable being somewhat sociopathic to do these surgeries. And it ends up, you sort of see, I think it does take a toll on her as she I mean, maybe it's kind of based, you know, maybe it is the idea that you do these very unnatural things and it has an impact on you. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, what was going on in that room and that moment was a very unnatural thing. But for them, doing the things that they do, on a daily basis, that's probably not the most unnatural thing to them. That's probably quite low on the unnatural scale, if you will.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, this did obviously kind of as a result of this, it brought the police into it, and I'm still working out my thoughts on this, but I do feel like bringing police into horror stories tends to cause loads of problems, because it kind of ties you to certain things. And
especially ones with accents as bad as that guy's. I'm still trying to figure out where he's.
Oh yeah.
What's going on with that?
Yeah.
I also, did you notice that they never went to the police station because they probably couldn't afford the set?
No. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Once I noticed that, it drove me mad. But I don't want to just dump on this film. I think there's good stuff in there. I think there's good premises here, but this is the kind of thing I would do, like one of my fails from the Crypt videos on. It's like a film where I can say, look, this is far from perfect, but there's great stuff here. Here's how you would improve it.
Yeah. I mean, another thing with the whole, R word scene. I don't really get how. I mean, I probably missed this, but how did Billy end up getting the video of Mary being R-worded? And not the police.
We're gonna. I want to come to that. I want to come to that in a bit. When are we going to do that now?
Yeah, shall we? I think we can isolate this story strand because it's kind of contained in just like 2 extra bits. There is the police coming and interviewing her, which basically never goes anywhere.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I don't have much to say because it never goes anywhere. Certainly not to the police station, because they didn't have a set. So it's one of those things you notice and then you can't unsee. Billy gets the tape because she then uses her connections to kidnap the doctor and do her own justice.
That was it. Yeah.
That was it. Now that's not bad.
That's
pretty decent writing. That was okay. And I liked it. And then if I can skip, it's a good premise. She's using her skills. She's practicing on him. That is nice and disturbing, right? Film had me back a bit at this. I was like, okay, it's been a bit shaky, but this is gross. This is disgusting. This is very disturbing. I like it. Good. And then there's kind of a capper on that, which shall we just get to quickly?
Please do.
Okay. It's one of the best bits in the movie, and it's one of the worst bits in the movie in one scene. Because the scene is basically great, but it's in completely the wrong place. We find out that actually after about 15, 20 minutes of screen time in between her first experimenting on him, where we think she's killed him, actually she's kept him alive, strung up, has taken limbs off, like really messed him up, kept him in a warehouse. Oh gosh, this was glorious. I loved this. Yeah. But that should have been at the end of the movie. This is your big scene. This is your big revelation.
Yeah.
This is your, hang on, how far has she gone? Why is she like this? How disturbed is she? This should be your shock revelation to really horrify people in the finale, but it's dropped just after an hour in. And then the tension, it includes a kind of pointless confrontation with a security guard. It's like
who she beats up with a dildo.
I do love the swinging motions. I will say I did like the swinging motions in that particular bit. But well acted. You notice straight away she left the door open. Yeah, you notice straight away she left the door open, and you're kind of thinking, if you're holding a secret like that, you're going to be careful.
Yeah,
that was just sloppy, complacent, and when you realise the door's left open, you just know straight away, yeah, someone's going to walk in.
Yeah.
And it became, for me, that was quite predictable. Well, I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, I had problems with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that particular scene when you see him all strung up. I mean, visually, wow.
Yeah.
But I do have an issue with, again, this sort of, I have a problem with the way that he was even caught, like so quick. It was so quick. There was no build up to it. It was just, oh, I've had this horrible thing happen to me. Oh, now I'm just going to go and speak to this one guy. Oh, and now he's on my table. And then, oh, you find out he's still alive a bit later on. Yeah, that's, that shocked me, because the vibe you get is that he's dead, and obviously you find out he's not. Yeah, it just felt, and then the way it was left resolved. I think what you said, Prop Horror Show, with actually putting that at the end, sort of had a little bit of a light bulb go off on my head, and I was like, my God, that would have been brilliant, actually.
Yeah.
And in fact, the way the film ended, I would have liked it if there was an extra, just a quick scene added on, and there he is hanging, screaming through his stitched mouth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we know no one's going to come back.
This is your Grand
That
Guignol
would be-
moment. It's utterly horrifying. It is the really tipping you over, and it was wasted.
Yeah, actually, the end rehab that you just highlighted made a good point. Instead of a security guard, it could have been the policeman, and I was almost expecting it to be him at that point. So I was surprised it was just some random security guard.
Yeah.
Again, another lost opportunity there.
There's so many ways it could have tied up. If she's getting more involved with the owner of the strip club, Billy, and it could have been him following her, or it could have been the policeman, and she could have been reacting to the sort of stress of what's happening to her, and she kind of more shuts down and occasionally lashes out. It's weird. But let's talk. I mean, this. I think we've got the basis of what was wrong with that scene. Why it was begging to be a good scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And the trouble is, it didn't go. Sorry, Harry, go ahead.
No, well, yeah. It's just as well when the security guard knocks her out, he's instantly like, "Oh, I'll help that guy." But it's like, if you see a guy who's mutilated like that, I wouldn't blame if he'd like try to tie her up or something first. You don't know what she's going to do, and she ends up killing him. It's just, yeah, everyone did something stupid in that scene, and it really annoyed me. But I was already tapped out at that point, so I'm just laughing. I'm like, oh, look at the guy she hates is still alive, and missing arms and things like that. And I'm like, oh, that looks cool. I think, like, oh, she's left the door open. What an idiot, goes on like that. I
would have liked to have seen what she had done. In both, do you know what I mean? No, I mean, maybe not necessarily in that particular bit. I'm sorry. I'm referring to at the very beginning, when he is captured. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen some of the things that she did in that 12-hour window. It could just be like some cheap little montage or something like that. But
no, I don't think it was neat. I mean, you see him missing arms and legs. I think that would be enough.
But again,
that has to be the shocker,
I mean, I'm not saying that it should have all been done in that 12-hour window, because the implication is that the arms and legs didn't come off in that 12 hours. Other things were done, and obviously because at that point we think, okay, he's dead. Up until we find out that he's not. I think if we'd seen what some of the stuff that she'd done and the pain that he was going through, that revenge that she was getting, I think, again, when you realize, oh my God, he's still alive, because you've witnessed and you felt that pain because of what she was doing to him, I think that would have hit harder. If you then see him and he's in the state that he's in, then you think, oh my God, like that I think that would have hit harder than just sort of, I'm going to do this stuff to you, pans away. 20 minutes later, oh look, he's still alive. Oh, okay. Oh, that's grim. He's missing his arms and legs and his mouth sewed shut. And she's still talking about stuff that she's going to do to him. Oh, well, I don't like that right here. It's like, show me. Don't tell me. This is the old show don't tell problem some people have.
Definitely. And just the delivery of it. Like, this is our grim, dark here's your nightmare's ending.
Yeah.
Here's a horrible fate. There's a
Mm.
film called Feed from 2005 that the
Oh,
way that ends nails exactly how you deliver this.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think that might be the film I was thinking of at this point. Because yeah, obviously he's done something terrible to her, and you want to see her get redemption for what he did to her. So I wasn't in any way sympathetic towards him, because I'm just like, don't be an artist, and you won't be in the problem that you're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have liked to have seen some of that torture stuff, because she's body modification. Let's see her at her work. See her doing what she does best at this stage.
Well, we then go on to, and that was another problem with the movie. Again, I'm not trying to just slate a movie and call it awful. If it was awful, I wouldn't bother talking about it. This is a film we can learn stuff from. Let's think about the tension. She's gone into a dodgy line of work to get money. She's doing things that are kind of unethical, doing these weird, dodgy surgeries. But the film seems to think they aren't dodgy, because she goes into this montage where she sets up her own thing.
Yeah.
And actually, all the body mod people, maybe declaring a bit of an interest here, I knew some body mod people, pretty chilled.
Yeah.
Now, that's a tension killer. I thought we get this lead up where weird, uncanny looking people kind of stalk her, get into her flat, offer her money of unknown providence to do this very weird deforming surgery.
Yeah.
And then you find out, actually, no, they're pretty chill.
Yeah.
They're nice people.
Yeah, I quite like Betty. She was quite endearing.
She's
just a sweet, lovely lady.
Yeah. The tension kind of goes at that point. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Just doing a load of clients, and she's getting reputation, and the horror drops at this point.
Especially with the way she's introduced, like Haryan said, when she just walks into the house when she's unannounced, and you just get like that, almost like a blind moment, silently just walking past, like you think, oh crap, she's going to be a bit of a sinister, and then you find out she's just a lovely sweet lady who just likes to have her face rearranged every now and again. It definitely kills attention.
There's a lot you could do with this. You could so this was a conversation that I was having after watching it. Is okay, she's getting into a dark, illegal, subversive world of body modding. She's outside of the law. What might happen here to increase attention? Is she blackmailed by people who know what she's done and who could ruin her life? Is she asked to do a surgery that goes way beyond her limits, and that's kind of another kind of grand Guinan moment of horror?
Yes.
Botching jobs, people wanting revenge on botched jobs.
Does she get trapped into doing some really extreme stuff by someone psychotic? Is she brought into a really dodgy situation where, maybe there's some kind of weird dom sub thing where the dom gets her in, giving her money, and is telling her to do the surgery on the sub or something that goes way beyond her moral boundaries and freaks her out.
There's a great.
Any of these would have been great.
I was going to say, I really want to watch those films.
Yeah, there was a great. Both of you mentioned about botching an operation. There was the perfect opportunity to botch an operation, and they didn't take the opportunity. And especially because early on in the film, the theme is don't f up. No, you don't make mistakes. You kind of want that to come into the fore at some point through botching up a big operation. I don't know, maybe on a certain set of twins, but we're not going to explore that. We're just going to make it all fine. It really frustrated me.
Yeah, I mean, they were another thing that just kind of happened. It's like, a quirky pair of twins who have their backs. Did they have string?
They did, yeah.
What was in their body?
What they had was ribbons threaded through, I believe, piercings. So they were subcutaneous piercings and threaded. Now, There are two really interesting things about that. One, those twins are the directors of the film, the Sosko twins.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Hang on, didn't they kiss?
Things are different in Canada.
Okay, okay, that's even fucking weirder.
Leafs, can you confirm?
Oh, jeez.
Second, okay, like this is a minor point. This is one of those hey moments, you know, just afterwards. Wait a minute, Matt, that doesn't make any sense. So these twins come into the club, and it's actually really well directed. Like, you see, these are important people, and they are, you know, they've got their back ribbons with with either needles or piercings, and they say they're big. They're the big names of the body mod community, and they're wanting to be extreme, and they ask for something really extreme.
Yeah.
But you go, hey, you're meant to be the big names, and like, you haven't really done anything.
This is
They haven't done anything extreme. Yeah. Like, why are they think of all the other clients you saw go to Mary for people who've had subdermal implants for horns, really extensive face distorting piercings, things like that. They've done nothing. They've got
they didn't even have the
ribboning
tongue thing,
which can be taken out. So it's a little detail that I noticed. It's I know, like, some being a big name in a tattoo convention, and you're just looking at them like, well, where's your ink? Where's your ink, bro?
Yeah. They've got a love heart mum on their arm, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
on the calf, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't like the scene they were introduced in. I was just like, who are these people? Oh, one of them's biting the tongue out of a stripper. Right, cool. Why? Oh, they're holding hands. This is really weird. I'm just like, what is going on? It was just another thing that just happened, and I'm like, okay. Then they introduce themselves like, oh, big body mod, as you say. It's like, oh, they haven't really had any body mods. It's like, oh, I want to swap arms. And I'm just there like, why?
Yeah.
It's just something that happens. It's just like, oh, we need something extreme for this film.
Yeah.
But again, what do we do? Oh, that. What?
It's a nice idea, isn't it?
I mean, it's a big ask, and you know, like you say, obviously, that, you know, bear in mind the fact that they only really sort of had ribbons attached to them, up until that point. So even if you remove all of that, okay, you've got these two, you know, big names in the body mod industry. You've built your Mary. You've built yourself up a reputation as being able to, you know, carry out these extravagant operations, and so far everything's gone right. So they've come to you and they said, look, we want you to chop our arms off and swap them around because we trust you with that. Okay. She realizes, oh, I'm going to need some extra help. And the guy that's brought in doesn't seem to be all there in terms of competency. And yet you're setting up a really good opportunity now for her to, well, not even her, but him, I suppose, to cock up the procedure. And, you know, they end up losing both their arms, you know, and that could ruin her to the point when, you know, maybe they want to get revenge on her. I don't know. But again, it's not explored. It's a good setup. It's a good baseline to start that particular arc. But again, a common theme with this film, it goes nowhere.
Yeah. The surgery's successful and they go out the door. I was like, oh.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
What a film.
And did we get to the point? Oh no, I think the video footage is coming up after this part, isn't it? When they have a conversation about that. That really infuriated me.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these parts of this film were just really bugging me out, because obviously there were two, because the doctor who was strung up was her lecturer.
Yeah.
But the guy who invited her to this party was the surgeon, the trainer surgeon, who told her go in and tell they've had a heart attack and whatnot. Yeah. You then find out soon after this. It's actually soon after the girls have left, I believe. Oh no, I can't remember exactly where, but you find out he goes missing,
Yeah.
Is it Dr. Archer, I believe his name is? He goes missing, and obviously she knows nothing about it because, as far as she's concerned, she's got Hannibal Lecter
Nice.
strung up. I try.
He's not even a cannibal.
I appreciate that.
Strung up. So as far as she's concerned, like she's like, okay, don't really know anything about that. And she has a conversation with Billy later on when she finds out that the apartment was raided and there was a whole bunch of Shrek's tapes there. And
Nice.
she's like, was mine there? And he was like, no. So she goes to speak to Billy. She's like, where's Dr. Archer? He's like, I don't know. She's like, really? And he's like, yeah, well, okay, maybe I had something to do with it. And then she turns around and says, was there a tape? And he's like, no. When there was, because a few scenes before, he's sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
And again, here's a good setup. You've got her confronting who she believes to be her friend, who is her friend, who obviously has deep feelings for her, and that was the reason why he, nabbed that Archer guy. And she's like saying, was there a tape? And he's effectively lying to her, whether that's to protect her or for whatever reason, I don't know. But she just, yeah, okay, fine. She just accepts it, moves on, nothing. Like,
yeah,
I would have liked to have seen her find out that he was lying, and I would have liked to have seen her reaction to that. Would it have been, would it have been, just sort of like, you're not my friend anymore? Or would it be, something along the lines of, you lied to me, you've seen me at my most vulnerable, and, you shouldn't have seen that. I'm going to chop you up to pieces like I did the doctor, because as far as I'm concerned, you lied to me, you deceived me, because she was well down the path at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and what do we get instead of that? She walks into him while he's getting a BJ off one of the new strippers.
Yeah.
And then I don't know why, for some reason she gets annoyed at that, goes into the bathroom and essentially threatens her with cutting her up. And I'm like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
This lost me at this point. I did not know why she was doing what she was doing. Yeah. And I did feel the film had firmly entered things just happen mode.
I think for that bit, she sort of shut herself off after the whole arse situation. Yeah. And I do think that, there was a connection between those two, because obviously he helped her out afterwards. So, I think even though she wasn't expressing it, there were feelings there. But again, it just wasn't explored. I'll go back to it. If she had these feelings for him, but obviously was bottling them up, there could have been a point where she may have opened up. But then after finding out that he lied about the tape and there was a tape and he essentially had it, that could have been, grounds for viewing that as an ultimate betrayal of trust between the two. Because who knows? She could think, well, maybe he's got that tape to encrypt, like you said earlier on at Proper Horror Show. That could be blackmail, because there's motive there.
There's so many things that opportunities.
They needed that, because essentially the police needed that tape to connect her, because it was no coincidence that he went missing and she dropped out the day after. So they already had a connection there, but they needed something to tie the motive, and obviously that tape would have been that tying in factor. So essentially that's he could have he could have genuinely done it to protect her, or he could have hung that over her head at some point, but they don't explore that. It could have been a power play.
They're both very, you could say repressed individuals and not really expressing themselves clearly.
Oh, definitely.
Which is fine, but the downside is I don't know the motivation. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had a laugh at the screen moment when he just kind of says to her, "So I was thinking about just getting out of here, going somewhere." I was like,
"Yeah, but what's going on?
Yeah, why?
Like, you didn't know what to do. Like, what's happening, my dude? Why?"
It was there was no reason for that. Just like, if anybody wanted to bugger off for a little bit, it should have been Mary, really, because she had the fuzz on her tail.
Yeah.
You know,
And
of
she
course
didn't know
he's
what she was
reasonable.
doing at this point, did she?
Yeah.
She didn't know what she was doing. She was kind of going along. She's establishing a practice. It was maybe getting a bit fiery, a bit spicy, but she carries on. And I don't know what's going on inside her head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was completely nonsensical.
Yeah, and there was like the little scene with the guy who was shortchanging the till, and she notices. She's like, "Oh, do you want me to take care of him for you?" And he's like, "The guy's like, nah, we'll just scare him later." And I'm like, "Why even have that scene then?" I don't.
Yeah.
Is that where she's going? Is she becoming this kind of dark avenging angel kind of thing?
I mean, yeah, maybe, but then it's like, but we've already seen that she's doing that. Like, why do we need a scene where it's like, oh, you know, she wants to do it to random people? No, it's like she's cut the guy's legs and arms off. If that scene was at the end and we didn't know that yet, that might have been a more effective scene. But it's just like, I mean, we keep talking about ways that better films than this, basically, that haven't been made.
Like,
I confess, rewriting films after I've seen them is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, which is fine. It's just...
I love doing it. I come out and we're just like the next hour and a half is like, well, how would you have done this? I love it.
Like if there's any wrestling fans out there, especially like sort of like the YouTube sort of sphere, there's a guy called Adam Blompier, and he does he does like a series. He used to do it on What Culture. He now does it on Wrestle Talk. How I Would Book, and he basically takes popular storylines and then retells them in his own vision, because he's a smart ass. Ding. That's kind of like it's kind of like American Mary should be given that kind of treatment, because this is a film with a lot of potential, but the execution in it is just, it's just awful. It's
jumbled. There are opportunities. Like there's a little bit of Rian Johnson in there, like, oh, set this thing up. Anna subverted your expectations. It's like, okay, but like now lots of stuff that could have been an interesting line isn't there. Like the Avenging Angel line doesn't go anywhere.
No.
It did remind me of Last Jedi, where things just happen and none of it makes sense. And then things are set up for nothing. It's like, why do this to me?
Before we get to the end, like there is something I like to pick up on there, because I think so. It's something I do in all the fails from the Crypt vids is when I do this, I do a film that could be improved and I suggest an improvement, like we're doing now, because I think it's fine to criticize, that's cool, but I think it's also good to sort of put yourself on the line and say, here's how I would do it. And I was kind of inspired by this from this old post, ages old, about criticizing the new Doctor Who. And this person basically completely rewrites, I think, season 5, the first Matt Smith season. And I thought it was really brave, because it's tough to put something of your own out there, and I don't want to just, like, especially independent creators, I don't want to just crap on it. They had good ideas. It's just, gosh darn it.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's an interesting concept. I had no issue with sort of like the early premise of the film, and I don't even have a problem with sort of like the angle of the body mod scene. Like, she could be fully immersed in that. I've got no problem with that. There's just key points in this film where either scenes are misplaced, or they're just, there's no conflict resolution, or just any sort of resolution in that point. And I do wonder, is there a cut of this film where maybe those scenes are there, and we're just seeing a heavily cut version of it, maybe to save time or whatnot, because it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like this is a complete film. It does feel like there's things missing from it, which hashtag Snyder Cut, I suppose, but it needs
that was hardly an improvement.
Wow, I mean, it needs more. This film, there needs to be some bits in there that need to be added in there, just just sort of tie off some loose ends, and then I think you'd have a bit of a better movie. But yeah, I didn't enjoy it just because of the fact that there were so many parts of it where I was just like, you're not going to go anywhere with this, are you? And even got to a point where things did get resolved.
Oh god, well, as soon as we get on that, I've got things to say.
Oh, we're going to talk
Alright.
about the ending, are we? Or
Well,
hang on, I want to ask you first, like,
Yeah.
in terms of things not developed, I think part of the problem is I'm worried about what it's saying about body mod, because I feel it was fairly uncritical about it.
Yeah,
Is that a fair thing to say?
I think you're
yeah.
right about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was no criticism or sort of or any sort of explanation of the dangers involved with it, and if there was, it was briefly mentioned. Almost like, it's okay, bro, trust me.
Yeah, well, the only bit that's really like, this is why body mod can be bad, was the penis joke near the end. That was it, where the guy's like, oh, because she needs to fix his penis, and he's like, oh, I thought it'd be fine. She's like, oh, common sense says if I say no sex, you shouldn't wank either.
Oh yeah.
So that was it. But it's, the rest of it's like, oh, people doing their tongues and piercings and horn implants and whatever. It's I mean, I don't know body modification, the dangers of it too well, but I mean, I'd never do it myself, and it's never been anything I'm interested in. But the last thing this film did was get me into it, so I don't see it as much of a problem. But yeah,
I mean, I'm not into sort of like the levels of body mod that obviously the film portrays.
Yeah,
but I've got a few tattoos, and I've got no objection to people doing stuff like that to their body if they want to do it, and in some cases it can look quite cool. So I mean, I wouldn't look at it too critically personally, because as I say, I'm not really that fussed by it. But I think in the spirit of the kind of film that this is, you might want to put stuff like that in there just to add that kind of fear factor.
Yeah. Well,
yes. There's stuff like the Ruby Real doll who has her nipples removed. She gets effectively, what's a euphemism? She basically has everything removed down there to be completely smooth in the groin area, like a Barbie doll. And it's like presented like, that's actually fine. It's only her partner who's the problem. And it's like, I'm not trying to be a prude here. Like, I know I try not to swear on these streams. I like it family friendly. And I've got some tattoos. I used to have subcutaneous piercing on my neck. I'll show you another time. But it's so I'm not trying to be a big prude here, but I think this film really was going into an opportunity to show that actually there's quite some extreme stuff happening. There's some dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't think it did that. You can be balanced and you can be nuanced. And it didn't do that. I felt it was entirely exculpatory.
Well, I think the reason for that is it was there for a premise more than anything. I don't think they were trying to say anything about it. Yeah. I think they were just like, oh, she gets into body modification. I mean, to be honest, they clearly didn't put much thought into this film. If I'm honest.
I mean, what you got to remember, she effectively got into body mod because she did a back alley operation, basically. So it wasn't even a body mod thing that got Betty's attention. So it would have been, I mean, I don't think the things that they should have been saying or should have been talking about, they weren't. Whereas the things they were trying to talk about, they were missing out sentences, or sort of cutting off halfway through.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation. And I'm going to disagree with you, Harry. I think the Soska sisters, I think they clearly did care about it. It's an independent film. It's a passion project. They did it themselves.
Yeah, no. I didn't say they didn't care. I said they didn't put much thought into it.
Oh, fair. All right. Well, it needed thinking through. It probably did need someone to go a bit harsh on the script and say, what's the resolution here? to be a bit kind of like we are, a bit systematic, and just be like, what's the setup? What's the payoff? Why is this in? You know.
Yeah, I mean, the premise, as we say, the premise is fine, and it's clear. I mean, I imagine it's something both the sisters have somewhat of an interest in.
I suspect that.
Yeah,
makes me wonder if the ribbons are real or not.
I mean, it's fairly light. Effectively, they've just got fairly simple piercings, like you do a ring for your ear. It's not a big thing, and it could be removed fairly easily. I mean, Rooney Mara got a lot more intense piercings when she went for the role of Lisbeth Salander in The Girl with Dragon Tattoo.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, people in the chat saying, a couple of people saying they want to check it out. I'd say check it out. Don't obviously this isn't a 10 out of 10, but you can learn a bit about the mechanics of the story, and there are some good visuals in here, and there's some nice sound design, and there's some nice performances. But from a story point of view, you're going to be tearing your hair out.
Yeah,
Shall we talk the ending?
Yeah, we can do, because it was just awful. So the scene after this was essentially it goes back to Ruby, and she's in a room. And how long is this after the surgery actually happened? It must have been a while.
It's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, in terms of like in universe time, was it like 2 weeks after? Because I don't know how long it was. I don't think it can be that long, but I don't think surgical scars should be as healed as they were. But we'll ignore that.
I think it's a lot longer. Like, imagine you've gone away for a business trip, you come back and your wife's foof's gone.
Well,
yeah.
Just remember that she gave her a cream to help with the scarring. Do you remember? It was a cream.
Still, all right. So she got Sudocrem, the thing that can heal bullet wounds. Yeah. So essentially, the husband comes home with Ruby, and she shows him what she's done. She's missing her nipples, which not terrible, but then oh my god, she's sewn her genitals shut. Yes. So he did what any sane man would do and went mental.
Well, yeah, she scrubbed her tuppence.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I just didn't get. I mean, it goes behind. Why does she want that? I mean, I mean, you just don't know the relationship with her husband at all. They must have had sex if he got that annoyed about it. So after that, it kind of just cuts when he looks at it and like looks angry. And then it cut to that scene where she I can't remember where it cuts to, but
you got Betty on the floor, ain't you? Because it's revealed that Betty hasn't been coming into work, and Billy just assumes that she's just upped and left, and they're both surprised by it, like, oh, I didn't think Betty had it in her, and then you find out later on it's because
she's been tortured.
Yeah, that the husband basically went John Rambo.
Yeah, because I think I'm trying to think which scene it cut to after that, but it cuts to a scene. I can't remember which one. I think it's them at the bar actually, where he's like, "Oh, we should get away, like do a road trip," and I'm like, I don't get why he's got feelings for her in any way. It's just not developed. It's another thing that just happens. I mean, I assume she had some for him, and that's why she threatened the woman who was giving him a BJ. But I assume so, but it's not very substantial. But so it goes to that scene, and then she's in a new studio or kind of back alley surgery place, which I think the front of that is like she does photography, and then obviously in the back that's where she does the body mods. Does she get a call then from Beatrice?
She gets a call from Beatrice. Yeah, she gets a call from Beatrice basically saying, "Oh, the husband knows," and it just because it's so briefly mentioned, isn't it? Like, oh, I didn't know Ruby had a boyfriend.
Yeah, you didn't know until that bit, and then it's just like, oh, by the way, he's also mental. Yeah, he also tortured. Yeah, because it's like, oh, he knows where she is, and she's clearly been put through some physical pain, probably emotional as well.
That could have landed well because despite everything, I was like, I think Beatrice is one of the most sympathetic, interesting characters.
Definitely.
It was quite horrible
yeah.
seeing her beaten up, but at that point in the film, you're kind of out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You're checking your watch, aren't you?
I completely agree.
How long
me and Teabag are out of it for about an hour at this point. Like half an hour, 40 minutes at this point.
This was my reaction when I saw that happen. Because bearing in mind, I think Beatrice, Betty Boo, whoever, was probably my favourite character in the film, and I was literally just like, oh no, she's been beaten up. Oh well, just like how much longer we got left? We must be wrapping up now, surely. Like I wanted to care about that moment, but I was just like, hurry up.
Yeah,
it was kind of in the no pause zone. You know, you're like, you got to have a bathroom break, and it's like, oh, shall I pause? Nah.
Yeah,
it was in that zone already.
Definitely. I was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, because as she's on the phone to her, I think she just hangs up, and then she just gets stabbed.
Yeah,
it's just like, what's going on? And the guy's mad. But then after she gets stabbed in the gut in the front,
she's like,
oh, and then she just turns around, subdues him fucking somehow, and then just bites his neck. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So she tears out his jugular or something, and he starts bleeding out. And then she just spits out, and she's like, oh, she's been stabbed. All her strength suddenly goes somehow. Like the adrenaline would still be kicking, and then she's dragging herself. Knocks over the table and starts trying to stitch herself up, and this all happens within 2 minutes, and then the police turn up, find her there, find a book of the photos she's been doing of all the body mods, and of the missing lecturer, and it kind of just ends.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I think my neck broke. That's how fast that scene went.
Like Hannah.
Yeah. I literally fell down a well in that scene. I don't know what the hell was going on. I'm just, the police here now. They found that. I didn't even clock that she had a book full of her photos, but I assume she put them somewhere. She was talking about a website when she was taking the pictures at one point. So I'm like, I don't know if that website will play into it. No. She keeps her own photo album. Oh god!
I will say there was a nice little bit of foreshadowing earlier on in the film, because obviously at the end the police come in and they find out everything that's going on. The last things that the police officer says to Mary before he goes, after asking were you assaulted by these people, he's like, I want to help you, Mary. I want the next time that I see you. I want to know everything that's going on. I want you to tell me everything. And of course, the next time he sees her, she's out on the floor, dead. Yeah. And obviously the book's there now. He knows everything. So nice bit of foreshadowing there, I would say. But it was such a rubbish conclusion. Why?
Because we'd got to that feeling of things were now just happening. There wasn't a character direction, because she was quite happy to just keep doing what she was doing. She was doing all right for herself. The police weren't bothered to her.
Yeah, hang on. We've completely missed a bit as well. Her grandmother dies. Nothing. Nothing from that. What happens after her grandmother dies? Small sad scene on the floor.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Deletes her number. Deletes her number.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she deletes her number.
Yeah.
So that's really weird. Oh god. I mean, I've had a death in the family recently. I've still not deleted the number.
No.
It's just,
There's a creepy story that Stephen King tells about. There's a kid in his neighborhood who had this hobby of, he would read the newspaper, he'd go to the obituaries, and then he'd go and cross the names out the phone book.
What?
We need to find out what that kid's doing now.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be good.
Right,
but this was the feeling of, this was just, and we've crossed the 90-minute mark. Okay, let's wrap this up, guys.
Yeah. It's over now, lads.
The big problem, story-wise, this dude could have come in at any time. He's like a ticking time bomb that you didn't know, but he was just brought in, and he could have dropped into the action at any point. This was just a sort of Deus Ex Machina to finish the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it felt like it was reshot to an extent, because it felt like, oh, we need to finish this soon, right? Have a crazy guy just appear and be really annoyed at that woman that was has had her genitals I was going to say taped shut, but sewn shut,
Snatched.
Yeah. Just have him go crazy. That'll do. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll do the ending.
That's terrible.
This for me would have been the perfect point for the sisters to have exacted revenge for the failed attempt at swapping the arms. So I was sort of saying earlier, it would have been good to bodge that operation. That would have been. I say I've got no problem with her dying at the end of the film. I mean, if that's what they want to do, then that's what these things happen. But they again just setups there. Just the execution is absolutely piss poor. They could have, like I say, they probably could have beaten her to death with their severed arms. Just to add insult to injury. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, I really love the idea of the teabag cut. I mean, think about this. It goes horribly wrong afterwards, and what kind of person has their arm swapped, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them dies, the other one comes back, and she's like, it's her sister's hand.
Yeah.
It's like, my sister can get revenge. This is her arm.
Oh, yes.
Look, we're in schlock territory already, guys.
Yeah.
This is fine. This is good for schlock.
And
I'm allowed to do this.
And it even connects to what they were, for the whole reason as to why they wanted the modification anyway, because they wanted to be forever connected.
Exactly.
So
there's your ending. There's your ending. It's sort of asking, like, someone's done this really extreme surgery.
Yeah.
Maybe someone who does that, there's a risk. There's something that'll pay off.
Mm-hmm.
That's your better ending, rather than a boyfriend that no one knew about who just comes in after 90 minutes and just.
Well, like I say, we knew about him. We knew about him, but it was just a fleeting comment.
Mm.
Oh, I didn't know I didn't know she had a boyfriend. Because again, like, why would you assume that she did, bearing in mind of the stuff that she wanted to have done to her in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it was so bad that they had to replay that scene where she says that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to remind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which isn't good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a great point, actually. Yeah, they had to replay that. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd put out your mind. The Henry Abbey, I would love a remake. I would absolutely love a remake, because, as we've pointed out, there is really good ideas in here. There is an original underexplored world that could make for an intriguing horror film with so much opportunity to drop really memorable scenes and memorable gore. It's just here it's jumbled, and unfortunately the ball is dropped, and we end up with just kind of an out of nowhere ending.
Who gave them 5 stars? I can't see that.
These do look like very tiny websites. Box Office Buzz and Screen Jabber.
Right. Okay. I question their credentials.
Yeah.
Are they blind? Actually, no. The visuals are the best bit.
Yeah, the visuals.
Visuals are great. It looks good. It's a gorgeous film. It's just that story does not land. There's
it's just so jarred.
There's a really old film. I'm not going to try and I guess it's mid-70s, called Graveyard Disturbance. This was one of those. I'd worked through most of the horror section at Blockbuster. Okay, so and I was getting in trouble. I was having to plead for a 15. That's how young I was. And it's one of those ones, it just gets to 91 minutes or so, if it even did that. It's about kids lost in a crypt. And at about, I want to say 89 minutes, one of them realizes, wait, the way is where we think it is. And then they go, oh yeah. And they just follow her. And we just have to go counterintuitive. And then she basically goes into the next room, finds a way out of the crypt. And then they get out, and then they're arrested by cops.
Nice.
The film is just like suddenly 180s done in 2 minutes. So it's basically cops arrest them, and then it immediately ends. It's that similar kind of thing. Unbelievably abrupt ending. Just comes out absolutely out of nowhere, and you're like, hang on, what? Oh yeah, 91 minutes. You made it. Fair play.
They need a Snyder cut by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Stop it. No.
Or at least a
Not a good
spooky showdown.
example.
Yeah, this could have done with a spooky showdown. I'd support that. So you see why I know this is not going to be anyone's favourite. I possibly leaned a little too hard into it maybe didn't quite. Maybe it was a bit too torturous at times. But I think there's stuff to. Think how much we got to comment from it, how much we were able to learn about like the story structure. 4 out of 12 burgers, absolutely.
Yeah,
bloody hell, that's far too nice.
I mean, how should I say this? It strived to be a 10, and yet it was probably, I'd probably say about 3.
Yeah. I'd probably put it around that area. Well, I mean, how many films are out there not striving to be 10s? But I know
quite a lot. I mean, this I'd say so. This is, I'm always going to like that it tried something and it went weird and it approached stuff. So it's points for effort, basically.
I feel like Jargon Gate went over your head a bit there. Striving.
I guess an analogy.
I missed striving. It's too much jargon for me. I can't follow it.
Yeah, I think an analogy I'd make for this film though is that it's a lot more like John Wick 2 or 3 than John Wick 1, where they've got the style, they know what they want to do with it. They're just not getting the story to make kind of get it to all work. Though I'd probably say it's more on the level of John Wick 3 because things literally do just start happening in John Wick 3, whereas John Wick 2 still has a bit of it. Yeah, whereas John Wick 2 kind of still has a bit of a through line. It's just not as good as the first, but yeah. 3's just like, he's fighting 2 Japanese dudes at the top of fucking glass skyscraper. And I'm like, why?
And one can teleport, if I remember.
Just get to the desert, John Wick. For reasons. There you go. Really?
Richard already got it. He got it. The striving to be a 10 reference. Enriab as well mentions that sometimes flawed films can make good discussions. Well, here we are, 20 past 10, still chatting about it. So absolutely right there.
Well, hang on. What was this? Can make good discussions. Yeah. No, well, yeah.
Not unless you think this discussion's been piss poor, Haryan.
No, the discussion's been fine. I thought, but I don't really. Yeah, I was going to say long discussions don't like make a good film, but he's not saying that at all. So that's
no.
Because I know people that are like, oh, Star Wars: The Last Jedi is a good film. Because a lot of people are still talking about it 3 years later, and I'm like, yeah, people are talking about The Room 2 decades later. It's not a good reason. But, oh god, yeah. But yeah, this film, I guess I don't recommend it. But I mean, if you want, I guess if you want good visuals and that's good enough, yeah, fine. But yeah, I think you're better off watching.
I would say
a few of the films.
I would say, and again, this is sort of like an in joke between me and my wife. Yeah. But this would have been one of the films if it was 99. If it was on sale 99p Virgin Media, we would have looked at each other and gone, "Do you want to get mugged off tonight?" And then this would have been a good kind of film we would have watched because we would expect it to be bad. And unfortunately, unlike Would You Rather, this film didn't surprise me. It wasn't. We got mugged off. Got mugged off, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'd say I was pretty surprised by the R scene. But
weirdly prescient. This is from 2012. It's ahead of the curve, time issue there.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, these elements. They did not fit together. Yeah. I was trying to come up with a Red Dwarf reference. What's that really gross sandwich that's made? That's got random stuff.
It was like it was
chili
a triple
chutney something.
It was a triple layered fried egg sandwich with sweet chili sauce and like sashfrika or something on the other layer. Yeah, and Rimmer tries it and it's like, oh, that's great. It's just like you. It shouldn't work, but it does.
This didn't have the chili sauce.
yeah, this was missing key ingredients. Definitely. But I mean, I'm glad that we've had a really bad film to talk about, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to give everyone a reward and something that's just like a rollicking good time.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have something that's just good wholesome fun that everyone will be on board for. Next week is already scheduled, however. Like I'm taking a gamble on this one, but that crime guy, your good mate Zen Chan.
Yep.
He was really keen for us to talk about Unfriended Dark Web.
Okay.
And he got in touch way back when we did the surprisingly good sequels discussion. And he said, "You've got to watch this. This has no right to be good." Well, okay, I'm intrigued.
I will say this is Zen-chan. He is known for tismy takes.
Yeah, he likes 50% of The Last Jedi.
Yeah. He likes what they did with the Luke specifically. And it's like it's not he's a weeb as well. Don't trust him. But
he's a nice guy.
No, he is nice, yeah.
He's Disney, but lovely. Nah, he's all right. Nah, he's a good guy.
All right, we're rolling the dice on this one. I think that is a plan. I've got to check in with him, see if he's still available, because if it's not a good choice, he needs to defend himself. But I'm intrigued. I haven't seen Unfriended, and I haven't seen the sequel, so it's all new to me.
Sometimes flawed films make good discussions.
I heard
that is a totally original sentence and thought out of my mind and out of my mouth.
Nice.
Just ignore the chat.
We love you, really, chat. All right, folks. I think we have covered American Mary. I don't know if we've sold anyone on it, but it's. I don't even know why it's called American Mary, not the Canadian. Just like, why does it have that title?
I'm like, oh, she's called Mary. She's American. It's like, yeah, but I think it was trying to ring off American Psycho. But it was nothing
American
like that.
Beauty, American Pie, American Psycho. But then he had loads of titles that were American something. I'm missing a bunch of them.
But if you notice in the film, they nicknamed her Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot more sense, but God,
Did they? I mean, there's an urban legend sequel that I think it's the third one is Bloody Mary. Did they not want to get confused? I don't know. Yeah,
it might be a copyright thing or licensing.
I thought I was done, and I just remembered another thing that annoyed me. Okay, I might not have convinced anyone to put this on the top of their watch list, but you could do worse. It's going to be interesting. At least, but I think we're probably done for this episode.
All right,
I'd say.
Cool.
So I'd just like to say big thanks to that crime guy and Harry for being on, and that crime guy for putting your top 5 films together. Top 5 horrors.
No, pleasure.
Yeah, and if you got some shilling to do, I know you're putting out some good stuff.
So I've put out a new video on Saturday, I believe it was. It's the horrific case of Alison Botha. So definitely check that out. In terms of performance, it seems to be doing all right, actually. It's my last 10. So I'm really happy with this one. Made some nice little changes to things like the intro and sort of like the overall presentation. I'm really happy with it. And if you haven't already checked it out, definitely go and check it out. And let me know what you think. And obviously subscribe. I've just passed 500 subscribers as well. So thank you everyone for who has done that. If not, what are you doing? Subscribe to my channel. You can find it on the algorithm now. And and as always, thank you for hosting this. It's been a great discussion as always.
Absolute pleasure. And my boy Haryan.
Yes. In terms of videos, I have no idea what I'm going to do this week. There's not been anything particularly annoying me that I've seen so far, so I'll make something though, if not tomorrow, Thursday. And then I know this must be the 3rd time I've said this on this stream, but I will finish Soma this week.
You need to do Stoner, and then we'll discuss it as a horror.
Yeah, no, because I can. Because you can watch my playthrough if you want. I mean, it's probably going to total about 9 hours, but I mean, you can skip quite a lot of it. I mean, it's clear when the main story beats are, but the funniest bits are definitely when I'm being chased. So it's depends what you want. But no, I'll definitely try and finish that Friday. I'll just make myself play it, and yeah, I'll probably end up doing a video covering the kind of philosophy in that, because it's very, I think I've mentioned before, but it's very what makes consciousness real, and can it exist in a robot and things like that. So probably do a video covering that, because I keep asking people, on the internet, my internet friends, like, oh, premise of the story of Soma, your consciousness is put in another body, right? Is that you being real, or is it, just, it's very materialistic? Does it have to be a real human body to be human? Things like that. It's, yeah, interesting questions that I will just ramble on about, I guess. But yeah, I think that's it in terms of this week. Laughing at the Guardian was last week. It was very fun. We had Froggy on. He said some very clippable things. If you watched it, I won't repeat them, but he mentioned something about children in need and jacking off in the same sentence.
Froggy is a clip,
Oh,
mate.
God.
I love that guy.
Well, he confused children in need with comic relief. Yeah, I'm just not giving you context because it's funnier. But no, that's it. So yeah, but subscribe to That Crime Guy and Proper Horror Show as well, because they do good stuff and deserve more subscribers. So there you go. Doesn't make sense shilling on your own channel, but there you go.
No, I'm chuffed.
Yeah.
It's maybe small for some people, but I crossed 600 today, and I'm really chuffed about it. It's lovely, but I think the streams are doing well for getting the word out. But the best thing you can all do is spread the word. If you know anyone who likes film analysis, especially if they like horror, put the word out. I'd really appreciate that. Be my shills, if you will. That'd be perfect. But that is all I have for you this week. I've mentioned that the CPU is going to come back in place, so you're getting some edited videos. Funnily enough, the first thing I'm probably going to drop is a guide to martini making, purely because I had kind of torturous setup to get a specific shot, and I really want to see how that turned out. I spent way too much time on it. So hey, I am vast and contain multitudes. It's very diverse on this channel. So the last thing, as ever, I will put out a big announcement of the topic and the film. Empire 2.0, you are asking what is next week's homework. I can tell you it is almost certainly unfriended dark web. I'm going in blind on that one myself. We'll see how it goes. But it should be good. And I've been lining up a bunch of guests who people in the sort of on the more econ end of this channel will probably, you'll know these guests. And
he's a radical guest, I have to say.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Makes you feel very liberated.
Yes. I think he'll be good for a late night stream. He's not much one for the day, more of a moon man, if you will. But honestly, the best thing is some of the films that people have requested we talk about has been surprised and delighted me. But that will be for future streams. So that is all from me this week. And again, just a renewed thank you to my guests. And I'll be signing off. So thanks, Yal. Tschüss.